So are these week 3 spreads and totals too high or too low? Let's start with the first one. Titans minus 5.5 over the Colts. What do we think, Reid? Too high or too low?
I think this is too high. I'm not convinced on Tennessee. And look, the Colts, yes, Jacob Eason might be out there. I get it. I can already see Steve on the Zoom panel, eyes wide, just the whites of his eyes. But look, these defenses are not good. I know Jacob Eason is not great, but if Carson Wentz were in, would this number be 3.5 and is Jacob Eason a +2 differential? I don't know. I don't think they depend on him. I think they depend a ton on a guy like Jonathan Taylor. This game could come close. I think the early money is coming in on the Colts when you see -5. But at the same time, I just do not trust Tennessee. I get that Derrick Henry ran for 1,000 yards, but he's not going to do that again. He's not going to have that type of game. Look, the secondary in Indy is terrible. Secondary with the Tennessee Titans is terrible. So with that being said, it could be a high-scoring game and it could go Tennessee's way. But I think this is too high right now.
All right, Reid thinks it's too high. Julian, how do we feel about it?
It's we don't know until we know who the quarterback is the real answer. But we have to act on something. Carson Wentz, given his career history, both ankles are sprained. That sounds like me in high school basketball, the double ankle sprain. So I'm going to say he's not going to play. I like the total's tough with Eason. Titans overs have been absolute barn burners, and week 1 was the bad beat with no points in the last 19 minutes against Arizona. I don't think I would touch the total if it's Eason, but I would touch the -5.5. Tennessee's going to win this game at home by a touchdown or more if Jacob Eason is under center for Indy. So that would be my lean in this game, and if Carson Wentz is in, I don't know what to expect from him either. I would still lean to Tennessee at a smaller number, even if Carson Wentz plays. This is going to be a tough season for the Colts. Off to an 0-2 start. Now you got a huge road divisional game. I don't know if Hard Knocks is going to work out the way they anticipated with, let's track the Colts down the stretch into the playoffs. They might be a non-factor for the playoffs by the time that show rolls around.
All right, Steve, how do we feel about it?
I just think this is too low. And I don't care who's that quarterback at this point. Carson Wentz, what are they going to, wheel him out there? 2 sprained ankles. 2 sprained ankles. Even if one's feeling better, how about the other one? He's on the Colts now, right? And everybody was like, this is going to be great. He's got this great offensive line in front of him. He's not going to be under pressure. He's already been under pressure on almost 45% of his dropbacks. So now I'm starting to think this is not an O-line problem. I'm starting to think this is a Carson Wentz problem because it happened with the Eagles. Now it's happening with the Colts. And then if it's Jacob Eason, the 4th-round pick, he goes out there. The Colts are getting ready for a field goal. He throws a pick on the second pass attempt of the game. That's what you're going to get with Jacob Eason. And Reid said it perfectly. This Titans defense has not been good at all. They've already given up 632 passing yards to opposing quarterbacks. But if it's Jacob Eason under center, that number might move to 633 when all is said and done. 1 passing yard for Jacob Eason all throughout in week 3. I don't feel confident in either quarterback. Doesn't matter who it is. So I think 5.5 is too low right now.
Hey, Jules, how about the Bills here? -8.5 over the Washington football team. Too high or too low of a spread? Looks like -8 now, by the way. -8 on the
Yeah, I really want to get this one at under a touchdown. I would feel Washington has extra time to prepare, coming off a tough win, if you can say that. Their defense was a huge letdown, and yet they beat the Giants in kind of a joke of a game, as we've become accustomed to in the NFC East. That said, would I bet on Washington? No. So I guess that means it's too low to answer the question appropriately. But it's a stay away spot for me. It's the only side I'm interested in betting on is the Bills, and the only number I'm interested in it at is 6.5. And it's not going to get there. So realistically, this just means that the Bills are a very good teaser piece this week at home against a Washington defense that the front 4, the front 7 will get some pressure on Josh Allen, but that secondary, we learned that it stinks against Daniel Jones and the Giants. So look for Stephon Diggs to go deep. Look for the Bills to have a pretty good game in the secondary.
Yeah, Steve, Washington 0-2 against the spread to begin the season. Taylor Heineke once again under center.
Yeah, I mean, look, the money's been coming in on Washington. This was at 9.5, I think, as recently as yesterday. So this line is coming down. Oh, look at that great graphic. There you go. I'm not lying. There it is, right in front of you. But
good job,
so
Steve.
this number is obviously coming down. But one thing that that Julian brought up too, like Washington's defense has been a bit of a disappointment. But at least according to Pro Football Focus, they still have one of the top 5 pass rushes in the league. And Josh Allen's been under pressure a lot so far this season. 40% of his dropbacks, he's been scrambling a lot out of the pocket. They've been getting some good pressure on him. And if there's a team that's going to do that efficiently, it's exactly who they're facing this week in Washington. So I'm with Julian. I don't like this number at all. The 8 is really a tough number. It's a well set number. But it's a tough number to really decide who you like in this one. If Josh Allen's going to continue to be under a lot of pressure, this is not the team that you want to have that issue against. So would love to see where this number moves as the week goes on. And we talked about getting some early line value. This is not the time because I think this is going to continue to change as the week goes on. So I think this is just a stay away spot for me. To answer the question though, I do think this is a bit too high at the moment.
Reid, how tough is it for you to see Heineke going toe-to-toe with Josh Allen on the road?
Oh, not tough at all. Heineke for MVP, baby. No, the unreasonable odds panel to capitulators here on the Washington football team at -8.5. Look, I get what these guys are saying, but I'm going to take the points here. Getting 8.5. Josh Allen, and Steve mentioned it. I think it's a really good point there. Buffalo ranks 31st in team, in pass blocking. In team pass blocking in their first 2 weeks. And Josh Allen has been a bottom 5 quarterback in a clean pocket and against the blitz, right? This guy was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy in all things last year and coming into this year. The stats were there, Stephon Diggs, we love it. But he has not been great in his first 2 matchups against the Steelers team that we know maybe is on their last leg with Ben Roethlisberger and against Miami without a Tua Tagovailoa. So, I'm just not convinced just yet. Julian mentioned that Washington is on a rest advantage. They have the best defensive line in the NFL right now. So I'll take the points. I'm not too worried about it. And again, the teaser point that Julian made, I think is great. I think getting it below that key number 7 is fantastic. But right now for this segment, I'm going to take the points of Washington football team.
All right, let's talk about some game totals. This one's a pretty high one. Cardinals, Jaguars, total set at 52. So the Cardinals in week 1 versus the Titans combined 51 points. Week 2 versus the Vikings combined 67 points. As we know, the Jags fell 37-21 in week 1 to the Texans. So that one was kind of a shootout. But then they lost 23-13 to the Broncos. What a stinker.
Yeah, keep it up. Keep it up.
Steve, so do we think these two teams can get to 52?
I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed about the Cardinals so far this season. They don't care about the other team's families. They're just going to continue to put up points every single week, regardless what the score is. No regard for how anybody's feelings. And I love that. I also would say, even though the Jaguars lost that game, didn't put up a lot of points, I liked what I saw a lot more in week 2 than what I saw in week 1. To be fair, the bar was not set very high in week 1. But the Cardinals' offense is fast. They are dynamic. Kyler Murray, already an early MVP candidate in my eyes. He's just looked absolutely fantastic. I like the over on this total, but this would not be a game that I'd be willing to bet the under on, even if what's that at 51.5 currently. The total has gone up and down a couple times already, but kind of staying in that range. I'd be going with the over in this one. And I really think a lot of it is because the Cardinals will just pour on the offense all throughout the game. We saw that connection early with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Quick 4 catches for him and the touchdown. Like that rapport just can't be matched. And really, the secondary for the Jaguars have nothing they can do to stop DeAndre Hopkins and a re-emerging Christian Kirk, as we saw in week 2. So I think there's a lot to like about this game. I would feel better about taking the over on the Cardinals team total, but I do like the over in this game as well.
All right. What do we think here, Reid? How do we feel about this 52 number? Do you have enough faith in the Cardinals that you want to take the over?
Yeah, and as much faith in the Jaguars defense and the Arizona Cardinals defense, their secondary, also giving up points late. Look, their secondary is not great. The DBs allowed over 11 yards per completion to the Minnesota Vikings. And I get it. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, even Kirk Cousins, a lot better trio right now, Emerson, don't worry, than Trevor Lawrence. We saw some nice passes from Lawrence and hooking up with Marv Jones, but The Jags can't stop anyone, and the secondary too, and that's why I liked the over last week in that Minnesota-Arizona game. The secondary for Arizona is not great. They're going to give up points, and so the 52 is definitely in play here because of what we've seen, the proclivity of the Jacksonville Jaguars to pass 60 times and not give James Robinson the ball at all. So I definitely like the over here.
You like the over, Jules?
I do. That was one of the longest answers I've ever heard Steve Buchanan give on this show, and it came for a Cardinals-Jaguars over-under. I didn't see that coming, but I liked Steve's last point a lot. It was Steve. I liked Steve's last point a lot, that he likes Arizona's team total here. Jacksonville is going to get points. It's going to find its way to get points, and against Arizona, maybe Chandler Jones does get in there for another big game when it comes to sacks like he did in week 1 against a really bad Jacksonville O-line. That Arizona will find its points. 38 against the Titans, 34 against the Vikings. I think that just playing the Arizona team total is the safer side of this one.
All right, guys, we got a couple minutes left in the show. This is our last one here. Chargers-Chiefs total. It's at 55, second highest total in Week 3, behind only the Bucs and the Rams. Reid, too high or too low?
Yeah, I think this is too high. I get it. Like, the Chiefs can put up a lot of points. We saw them put up a ton of points on primetime. I think this is why this number is inflated. These two teams met last season, Week 17. Kansas City sat all of their starters. That game went over. And Week 2, this is Justin Herbert's coming out party, Week 2 against the Chiefs. That went under. Look, the Chargers, I'm more worried about this Chargers side. If we're talking about team totals, I definitely like Kansas City side. But the Chargers, over the last 2 games, by a total of 27.5 points, have gone under the overall totals. So I just don't have a lot of faith right now in them putting this over, and especially in a division matchup, I think this stays under.
Yeah, Steve, Chargers offense been a little slow coming out of the gate. How much confidence do you have in the over?
I mean, the public has a lot of confidence because this has gone up 2 points already since last week. I don't know what they're seeing, because the problem is, like Reid just said, it's not the Chiefs side I'm worried about. They're already 2-0 on the over and have done so by an average of 12.2 points. It's the Chargers side that I'm worried about. They're 0-2 on the over so far this year and have missed by an average of 13.8 points. 13.8. And quite frankly, it's not even the worst in the league, which is just a whole nother story in itself. But you have some legitimate concerns about the Chargers here, and it's, Justin Herbert throws a beautiful ball, absolutely beautiful ball, but it just hasn't been going their way. They've been getting intercepted. They haven't been hitting their receivers. They're just taking a ton of points off the board themselves with penalties. They actually probably would have been 2-0 at the over if they stopped making all these penalties on themselves. But that's a legitimate concern here with the Chiefs. Obviously, they're going to have to throw a lot in this game to keep up with that team. But if that total continues to rise like it is, and it's currently at 55.5, I don't feel good about the over. If this starts to come down a little bit, then maybe I'm up to change my mind. But at 50, quiet, Julian. But at 55.5, I just think it's too high right now.
Jules, you have 30 seconds to answer.
Less.
Rambo Buchanan over here. The Chargers have gone under in 6 of their last 8, but they have gone over in 10 of their last 13 on the road and 4 of their last 5 on the road against Kansas City. I think the Chargers are due to put some points on the board, and that Kansas City defense is bad. This one actually finds its way over.